So in your first book, Make Your Story Really Stinkin' Big, you have chapter 10 and some sage advice.
Yes.
Sort of the ending chapter, I guess.
Yes.
So, what's some sage advice that you can share from the book?
So the biggest thing I would tell people that are either trying to break in or that already are in and then trying to figure out how to stay afloat is to think outside the paradigm, outside of the path that we're all given, the same door that everybody's supposed to go through, the same way that we're supposed to do things. Start thinking outside those boxes, because when you can think outside those boxes, there's more opportunities than you realize to actually differentiate yourself in the marketplace and continue to do the thing that you love the most, which is tell stories, and to create things that people can participate in and be affected by. And so for me, it's the mindset of having a mindset of disruption, having a mindset of innovation, having a mindset of an entrepreneur who builds a consumer brand rather than how a producer builds an entertainment brand. If anybody builds an entertainment brand the way an entrepreneur builds a consumer brand, you build it differently because there's different principles at play. But for some reason, people live in this little Hollywood bubble, and they think free market economics doesn't impact anything. We're just all about story in our. As long as I just write good scripts, then I'm good. And sadly, for 95% of writers out here, even working writers, that just writing just being great at your individual craft isn't enough. And unless you're one of like the top A-list, number one person in the town, or the top 10 writers in the town, everybody's trying to figure out, how do I stop going from paycheck to paycheck? How do I stop? Because even if you're like A-list, you're still going paycheck to paycheck. There's always periods of uncertainty. There's always periods where the new up-and-comers are in there and things start to wind down a little bit and you got to get out there and hustle. They may be big paychecks to big paychecks, but there's a stress and a pressure that is just around this industry, that if you don't start thinking outside of the paradigm, it'll wear you down after a while. And so the biggest advice I could get is just get out there and look at all the tools that you have at your disposal and figure out how to use all of them in the best way. How to look at models that have been there for 100 years and say, how do I incrementally deviate from that? How can I operate within it, but at the same time put pressure on it from the outside to start to change it? How can I establish myself and my brand as a writer and a filmmaker as a different brand than all these other 8 million people that are trying to do the exact same thing as me? How do I do all those things? And so that it's not always, how do I just write the better script? Because it's very difficult to write the better script. So now, if you put yourself in a disruption mindset, in an innovation mindset, I'm thinking outside the box. I'm kicking the box down the road and looking at it just from a completely different mindset. Now there's opportunities that they'll see that they didn't see before because they were too myopic, right? They'll see that maybe if I create a multi-platform transmedia super story that has a film and a book series and a TV show and a video game component and a mobile game component, then if I build that, I can shop it as a movie, but at the same time, I can also shop it as TV, but at the same time, I can also shop it as a video game, but at the same time, I can also shop it as a book series. I worked with a filmmaker who was trying to shop a TV pilot for years. And I said, okay, well, let's build some of this stuff out. And she built a book series into her plan. As she was shopping her TV pilot, she was able to take this book series and get a publishing deal out of it, where she was never able to get the TV deal, but she ended up selling it to a publisher, got a publishing deal, is now a working author with books, and is using the audience she's building from the books now the TV networks are coming to her
Oh, wow.
to say, can we put your books on TV? And so what that did is it gave her not just one outlet that she just kept going after, because she's like, I'm a TV writer, all I can do is TV. Let's think a little bit bigger. Let's think differently and think about how to approach the marketplace differently. What the networks and the studios and all the buyers, what they really buy is audience. What they buy is pre-awareness. And so that studios and networks don't reboot things because they love them. People didn't greenlight, the studios didn't greenlight Baywatch because they love Baywatch. They greenlit Baywatch because there's a pre-awareness of Baywatch that makes the investment less risky. And so if you understand the principle of what they love is pre-awareness, then all your job is as a creator is to, how do I create pre-awareness? If I can create pre-awareness for my TV show, create pre-awareness for my movie, I've solved the problem. Because if they love pre-awareness, I'm going to give them pre-awareness. But how do I do pre-awareness for a movie if I'm a filmmaker? I can't do pre-awareness for a movie by making another movie, because then it's a catch-22. Well, the way you do pre-awareness for a movie is to now do something other than a movie. Let's go out and do something that we know we can do, easy in the marketplace, that can quickly build an audience. Maybe you publish your own book, maybe you do music, maybe you do social media, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then you build that pre-awareness for it. Then the studios and the networks, they now will listen to you. You have a different conversation because you've broadened your thinking and you've established your pre-awareness. Not only that, but you've generated revenue, made your investors happy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you only get to that point as you think outside the box. You have to think not from a story perspective, but an IP perspective. Think from an IP perspective, then again, execute on a story level, but you always have to think from an IP perspective so that you can take advantage of different opportunities.
But it seems like creating a product, it's easier to be a disruptor. It's easier, you look at Apple, they were the underdog for a while, where they targeted to people that were the misfits, their whole campaign, which was really cool. And then of course, that type of person wanted to buy those machines. And look at Tesla. It was a car that was not a Prius. It was something that was sexy, and it spoke volumes about who you were.
Right.
But in terms of writing a script or getting a series out there, it seems like it would be very difficult to differentiate yourself.
Yeah, I mean, it's very difficult to differentiate yourself. That's why I say if it's difficult to differentiate yourself within the television industry, or from all the other series, or from all the other features that are being created, the one way to differentiate yourself is to differentiate and diversify your plan. And differentiate and diversify your intellectual property, to where now it's not just your IP and your project isn't just a feature film. There's all these other components there. When you do that, you differentiate yourself as a creator.
Okay, I see
right?
what you're saying.
And
yeah.
so you can look at somebody like J.J. Abrams, like George Lucas. Their brand isn't the same brand as any other filmmakers. People look at them almost in a different category.
Sure. Okay.
Right? And so that helps differentiate you from the beginning. Secondly, if you get good at it, what it does is also allows you to do it for other people. So now you can go to somebody who's making a movie and say, hey, you ever thought about doing it like this? And if you've already done it a couple times, they'll come to you and say, hey, can you help me do this to my project? One, which is great for you because you get paid for it. And secondly, that continues just to build your brand as this disruptor type of a person. Another thing that you could that I always talk about and try to encourage people in is to figure out the passion and the purpose behind the brand. How do you make your brand important? How do you make your brand connected to the emotional foundation of people and what people care about? And it's the thing called corporate social responsibility. If you can tap into how your entertainment brand isn't just cool, but how it's important on some level, then you can actually connect with the audience in a different way, not just in a cool way, but in an emotional way. And so a lot of times now, what's been in vogue of how to get series and features produced and picked up is that before you go to the networks or the studios or to whoever that you want to shop these things to, is to figure out the thematic premise behind your project. I call it a soapbox. And what are you trying to say about your project and with your project? You take the time to go build an advisory council of organizations that will endorse, not fund, but just come alongside and endorse you. And so if you have something like the movie Get Out, that is very much, one, it's a great movie, but it's infused with this race-conscious soapbox that really is seeded with the evils of racism and how it's very apparent. But if you have a project like that, take the time to go to the NAACP, to Black Lives Matter, to some of these other organizations. Say, I just want you to endorse me. And because the reason that I want to create this project is I want to enhance the lives of certain people in this certain way. If you have a project that is like The Leftovers, that is all about grief and how you manage grief and how you manage loss, and then all of a sudden take the time to go find organizations that are focused on how to help people manage grief, how to help people manage loss. These are different, there's authors that write books about these things. How do you make those collaborations, connections from the beginning? Then when you go have those conversations with networks and studios or investors, they can see the organizations that are coming alongside of you and endorsing your project because of what you're trying to say with it. That then also distinguishes you in the marketplace as well, because you're now moored to organizations and entities that have been well established in society. Not only that, if the organizations endorse you, then their donor bases and the people that they connect with will also support it, which then proves that there's a market for the project. So it's interesting, I outline all this in my new book where it's figuring out that emotional base, that emotional foundation that can align yourself with nonprofit entities, other organizations that then help differentiate yourself. Then if you then diversify the product line in a trans-mediated superstory way, now you're hitting on both levels and you really have something different. So not only is your project differentiated, but you as a creator have been differentiated yourself and you have a different brand yourself, which is great. But you only get to that point is if you elevate your thinking above, I'm just a filmmaker, I'm just an author, I'm just a director. That's all I am. All I do is direct movies. I'm a movie director, and that's it. If you never think outside of that box, you'll never do anything else. You'll never take advantage of the hundreds of opportunities that surround you every single day. We have to be able to build the car differently. And an 18-wheeler, when it's going down the road and it blows a tire, keeps on going, right? But if you're a filmmaker and you're riding down the road on a unicycle and you blow that tire, you fall flat on your face, right? So we have to figure out the machine that we're riding needs to be built differently so that we can help differentiate ourselves and keep going and float on top of the water, right? And so mixing all my metaphors at this point, but you get what I'm trying to say is that it's a mindset, it's a vision that if you don't have, you're not going to be able to take advantage of it. But if you do have, there's so much stuff that you can do. It's incredible once people, it's like seeing the Matrix, right? You now see, oh, I can do that, and 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 I can collaborate with this person, and I can generate revenue over here, and now I can do this and generate pre-awareness, which then loops me back around to have better conversations with the network studios and investors that I wanted to have conversations with from the beginning, all the while building this really dynamic, robust audience base that will then follow you for your entire career as long as you keep feeding them in the right way.
The reason I was laughing was because I was actually thinking of the wheel analogy, and then you said it.
Oh, cool.
Which was just so,
sure.
That's why I was smiling. But
yeah.
It sounds like, so you're not really inventing, if you want to go with a metaphor, a better story wheel. You're giving tentacles to that
yes,
wheel.
Absolutely.
You're spreading different. Okay, so
yep.
That makes sense.
Yep, sure.